What made you guys become ADAs? What was your path?
Do you want to start?
Sure. Well, I wanted to become an ADA only because, I mean, growing up in Brooklyn, New York, being around a lot of people that maybe had run-ins with the law or had to hire attorneys, and they as well as their family did not understand the process or the procedural part of it, right? That's one. And then two, there was always a negative connotation to the prosecution and what the prosecutor's job was. So, I mean, it would have been easy to become a defense attorney and defend all these people, but at the same time, it's like, why don't I do the opposite? Why don't I change the face of what prosecution is and change the perception of what prosecution is to people that I'm around? So they're like, oh, Nia, you could be a prosecutor. Like, oh, wow, like maybe they're not all so bad, right? So that's kind of why I decided to be a prosecutor. I have no regrets. I think the place of control, especially in a positive way of control, like knowing all the facts, understanding mitigation because you've been there or you've been around certain things, made me successful as a prosecutor. So I have no regrets. So that's why I became a prosecutor.
So I'm Moroccan, which is a country in North Africa. It's a third world country. My mother and father came here with very limited education and very limited resources, and they provided us a great life here. And part of the reason why that's possible is there was so much less corruption here in New York, in the United States, than there is in Morocco. Morocco, the name for prosecutor is muharriq, which means to drown someone. Okay? And the name for attorney,
Boat guy.
and the name for attorney is muhami, which is to defend someone.
Okay.
All attorneys are muhamis. They all defend you from the corruption of the system. Wow. And the entire system, they believe, is subservient to rishwa, which is bribery. If you have money, you can get whatever you want from anyone and take anyone's freedom. I loved that being in this country, being a first-generation American, having parents who had limited education, they were able to work, they were able to buy a home, they were able to live safely. We were able to live safely. And I really believed that the best way to serve and to be thankful for the resources and the opportunities in the country would be to put myself in a position where I could serve. And of course, I had this big ego, so I thought to myself, I'm going to take my big ego and put myself in a position where I handle the most important kind of cases and where I get to make a decision and I get to make sure that an innocent person is never convicted of a crime. So I thought that's why I'd be a prosecutor. And when I was a prosecutor, I tell you, I had many an argument about cases that I felt should not be handled a certain way. And I pushed, and I fought, and I believed in that, and I was always proud of that.
I just find it, because I also grew up here. I grew up in Manhattan, it's to both, right? So I grew up with aggressive police interaction since I was a little kid, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what I saw my peers and people, and that kind of led me to, end up suing the cops. I was a named plaintiff in the city Floyd versus City of New York to challenge the unconstitutional practice of Terry stops here by the NYPD, and then that experience made me want to continue to fight against kind of what you were talking about, right? I actually think that this country is actually a lot more analogous to what you were saying happens in Morocco than we give credit to. All of my clients when I was a public defender were people who did not have means, right? 90% of the people that walk through any criminal court in any of these jurisdictions are people without means. Mm-hmm. They're also people of color, right? And so the seeing the difference of clients I represent now that have means and the dispositions I get and who are majority white and have means versus what I did as a public defender, kind of it's interesting. I think that the further we continue down this path, what I don't think it's able to stop down this path. I think we are barreling towards this. Is actually what you said is happening in Morocco. I think that was at least my experience growing up in New York City. you know, I'm black and white. You know, half of me, of my family are not, you know, have been here since slavery, and the other half were immigrants. But you know, it's just interesting seeing that we all share really we all have a lot of the same experiences and come from the same place, and it led us to different places, and it's interesting to see.